Good morning, Jan.
Hello, Michael. How are you?
Doing very well. How about yourself?
Yes. Here, everything is going fine. The world is still moving a little bit. Now I got a new pair of glasses,
Okay. I was wondering what was different.
and so I have to adapt again
Mm,
to it.
yeah.
Um, the glasses are a little bit stronger, but I have it since Thursday, and if I turn my head to the different screens, um, but the overall experience is better.
Yeah. It's amazing how the human brain can adapt to radical changes in the way that we perceive things. It's like it's just going to be messed up for a while, and then it's like, oh, this is normal.
Yeah, because the first time I put it on, it was again like the very beginning where I had to wear glasses.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, you know how it goes. Everything moves,
Yep.
but you don't realize that you start needing new glasses from time to time.
Yeah.
Because if you're so used to the old glasses, yeah, tilt the head a little bit.
Uh huh.
Yeah,
Yeah. Or if I
but
need to read something, I'll just take them off and bring them up close. And it's
yeah,
fine. Oh, this is so
yeah,
much better.
but in the end, to see my computer, I'm all the times looking like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the purpose.
No.
Now, at least I see well if I look horizontal, and I can read well the documentation which is closer by, so that that way I can work more efficiently.
Indeed.
Yeah,
And what
but for
sort
the
of
rest,
work did you accomplish?
this week I almost finished one of my projects.
Hmm.
So I've been focusing all the time on it, and there was no time left for historical modeling,
Hmm.
unfortunately. But by next week I should catch up a little bit.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I've been
Yeah.
spending a lot of my time this week working on React Native. So
Okay.
I'm rolling off of a project where we're using React Native, but we are we're also training up a group of folks that have just just hit the bench or just um, just made it through our accelerator program. So they're some of them are brand new developers as well, and we have a lot of need for React Native developers. So it's like, okay, we've got this cohort of people. Let's teach them React Native. Um, so um, so I've basically gone through the React Native ecosystem again, but now this time from the perspective of somebody just jumping into it from the beginning, and there was a part of the ecosystem that I missed the first time around, and that's Expo. Um, Expo is a managed React Native ecosystem. So it's uh, one part of it is a runtime, an application that you install on your phone, and then that application can accept JavaScript and start running it. So you don't have to do a full native build in order to at least get it running on the phone. So you can actually use a QR code in order to connect it to another server, just a machine
Yeah.
on your on the same network, and then it says, oh, okay, I'll connect to that one. I'll grab the code off of it, and then I will throw debugging events back the other way. So you can step through the debugger and look at variables and all that stuff while you're running it on your device without having installed Xcode or Android Studio. Just
Hmm.
get started real fast. So, um, of course, it has a lot of limitations, but for getting a group of people up and running quickly, that is absolutely fantastic. Um, and then
That's called Expo.
Expo, yes,
Expo E. Okay.
yes, EXPO.
Never heard of. Yeah, I
Yeah,
never heard about it.
yeah, yeah. I saw it kind of tangentially while I was working on this project, and it was mostly okay. I'm looking for a library. Oh, this is an Expo library, so um, I assumed, it requires the entire Expo ecosystem. Um, there is a way to use Expo libraries without the entire ecosystem. That's a little bit complicated, but basically the idea is um, you buy into that ecosystem, and then you've got this runtime. You've also got a build server. Um, so you just say, well, currently Expo build, that's going to be deprecated by the end of the year, and they're going to switch to a different build server. But it's still pretty magical. You just Expo build, and then it packages up um, your solution, and it sends it off to a CI server, and they run the build in the cloud, and then you can download the result. So even if you are running on a PC, you can Expo build iOS. It'll run it on a Mac in the cloud, and then you can deploy that to Test Cloud and then have it downloaded to your phone. So you can complete the entire cycle if you stay within the ecosystem without using a Mac.
Mm-hmm. And what is the advantage for the new developers working in this system, that they don't have to go through the whole building sequence?
Yeah, there are a lot of extra steps that could very easily go wrong if you are installing Xcode and then you're setting up a project and you have to say that either you're an independent developer or you're a part of a team, and then you have to generate signing credentials, and then sign your app with those credentials, and then load it onto your phone over the over USB or it's easiest to start USB, and then you can switch to over the air. But yeah, there's a lot of little steps in there that could go wrong if you have to do all of that yourself. And you have to do that on a Mac if you want to develop for the iPhone. But with Expo, they take that out.
And does that help also for development on Android, or?
Yes, yeah. Android Studio is also a little bit of a chore to get installed, especially downloading all of the AVRs. Is that what they call them? I don't know. The virtual machines.
And keeping up to date with all the SDKs, and it's
So a managed solution like this, while it's not the right solution for everything, it's a good solution for more things than I thought when I first got looking at it. I was like, okay, this is a toy solution for teaching people, and that's what I'm doing. I'm teaching people. Let's go ahead and use it. And then as I'm using it and solving some of the little edge case problems, like, well, wait, they have a solution for this problem, and you can get much further with it than I at first thought.
So actually, the advantage is to have people to make it easier for them to set up the infrastructure to start programming.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So in a classroom environment, you don't waste time on infrastructure. You can start exercising.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's the sort of experience I want for Jinaga. So I'm looking at this with the kind of the Jinaga mindset and thinking, okay, if I want somebody to get started, I want them to just dive right into modeling. That's what I want them to think about is what's my problem, and then how do I model that as a history of facts. And so I don't want them to have even selected a language or a runtime or anything like that. I just want them to be able to say, here's a fact, let's go. And so yeah, I'm seeing that it starts with an online modeling experience where you can create facts, and then you can refactor your model. That's a really important part of the online experience, is that it can't be such that it locks you into the decisions that you make early on, because you're going to make the incorrect decisions early on. Even if you've been doing this for a long time, you're going to choose the wrong thing for your model initially, and you're going to want to refactor it later. So that's got to be a number one experience. And then things like connections to the services that you might want to integrate with should be just on the edge of that modeling workspace. So authentication is the first one that you'll run into. So what body of users are going to be accessing this model? Is it public users? Can I just set up my own registry, my own directory? If so, that should just be, all right, create a new directory, and now people can create an account within that directory. And, or is it Azure Active Directory or B2C, or is this a social login? So all of those should be options with that one component that you pull in to say, people can log in, and then you've got a Jinaga user object, and then hook that into the model. But then other integrations can just be kind of like on the edge. So, if I want to integrate with Azure DevOps, and I want this to be a model that can then look at my my issues and my pull requests in Azure DevOps or in GitHub, or if I want to integrate this with Facebook, and then that's part of the model. Those integrations should be easy for somebody with more experience and access to a tool that can access an API. They could code that up, build that, put that into the ecosystem, and then you can add it to your model. So all before you even get to selecting a language and building some code for your device.
So in fact, the initial step should be a graphical design environment where you can just drag and drop facts and make the tree of facts visual.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you should be able to enter data into that model, and you should be able to run queries against that data and kind of prove it out. In fact, if this is truly successful, then it'll be kind of like Excel in that you might just stay in that environment for solving the small problems that you or a small group of people have before you decide, what, I'm going to invest in putting a user interface on top of this.
So actually a kind of screen with three divisions. One graphical design of your model. The second one, a query, where you can, like an SQL query, but then a Jinaga query. And the third one, a pane where you can just add facts. Yeah.
So it'll be, when I think of Excel, one of the problems that I see with Excel is that all three of those views are kind of collapsed into one that is overly restrictive. So you start up an Excel document and it looks like you're just there to add data, but you can only add that data in terms of rows and columns. So it's a pretty restrictive structure. But just within the cell, if you type equals, now you're writing code. And if you learn VLOOKUP and a few other functions, then you can write queries inside of those cells. And
if you learn VBA, you can make real programming macros.
Yeah, and the graphical model is just something you have to keep in your head because it's expressed in terms of just the relationships between the cells. But yeah, if those three things were made explicit in three separate screens, and you could just kind of bounce from one to the other and see the relationships between them. Yeah. So I changed this model, that changes the query in this way, and now the data shows up differently.
That even if you change the model, that the query would adapt automatically.
Maybe. I don't know how to do that yet, but. Hey, we're getting closer.
Because I think the big advantage of Excel is that whatever your knowledge is, just somebody who's hardly familiar with a computer can use Excel if somebody opens it and say, now you enter all the data.
Yeah.
somebody an advanced computer user can use formulas, and a programmer, he can really make programs in it. Okay, it will be VBA, but it might be a real program.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the way that we use Excel at improving. Is that one person will go in and create multiple pages, and the first page is always the dashboard, so it's the most computed. It's output only, and then later pages are like just utility data, and then finally it's like, okay, this page right here, this is capturing the actual data. So then put that into SharePoint and assign out, all right, you go gather data about our social events and attendance and put that in here. You go gather data about user groups and and use about speaking events, and then we've got separate tabs, and somebody's already done the pre-work of writing the code in terms of formulas mostly to pull that onto different pages. But yeah, that's got a couple of things that are kind of hindering that, and one of them is that one spreadsheet is in SharePoint, and SharePoint tries but doesn't do a really good job of merging if two people are editing a document at the same time. So by assigning certain people certain pages, we reduce that problem a bit. But yeah, start with historical modeling, and it's designed for merging, and that problem becomes a lot easier. And yeah, the second part of that is that the code is running on your machine while you've got Excel open, and then you check it back into SharePoint. Versus this could be now a synchronization across multiple machines in the cloud, and it just runs in the browser or on your device or wherever you decide to install it and use it, whatever works best for whatever you're trying to do.
Yeah. Well, Excel is a very flexible tool. Yeah, perhaps we should try to build the Jinaga generator, if we call it that way. Also in different levels of competence.
Yeah, because you're going to have one person that they're just introduced to this tool only for the purpose of gathering data. Somebody else has already done the modeling, and so they've got a certain level of competence. But then you've got a level of competence of modeling the data. Somewhere in between there, you've got somebody who can write queries, but they didn't generate the model. And then you've got somebody who can write those queries and then bind it to a user interface using whatever stack they decide to use, whether it's .NET with Xamarin or React Native with Jinaga.JS.
You have to be careful because people will draw the picture and then they will call you to make the model and the queries.
Yeah. But that is a revenue stream.
Yeah, that could be another positive side.
Yeah, teaching and consulting. It all comes down to that. And software as a service. Yeah. People have to actually pay to use the platform.
Yeah, that it would be a different way of looking to Jinaga, but it might be the tool that makes it acceptable and usable to people.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I've seen so many attempts at this. Like Light Switch, sticking with the Microsoft ecosystem. So
that's a long time ago. Huh?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like we've got Access, and Access actually was probably the best implementation of this idea that I had ever seen, except for the fact that it worked just on one machine. But at that time, that's what people needed. Is I have this one machine, and I am the person who keeps track of customer relationships. So I'm going to create my customer relationship database on this machine. Um, and it had the storage and the data entry and the reports and the computations all in one box, and you could work your way up those levels of competence, where you just say, I'm going to start entering data, and it looks like you're in Excel. You're just entering rows of data, and while you're entering the data, it kind of infers the structure. So, oh, you want to put a title in that column? Oh, it looks like you're typing numbers. I'll call that a number. And you've just created a database. And then you kind of go up the level to now I need to create a form because I've got some relationships in there, and I have a master detail relationship going on. So, create a new form. What's the master table? What's the detail table? How are they joined? Here you go. And it just outputs that form. And then you could tweak it a little bit. And then you want to write a report, do the same thing, but now it's output only. And then here's a few more aggregate functions that you could use. So really, really powerful in this idea of just incrementally generating a solution, but it was just stuck on a single machine. So take the same idea, but base it on something that's distributed, and I think that we could have something really powerful. But yeah, taking it back to LightSwitch, LightSwitch was an attempt at the same idea, except it was based on a client-server model, not a fully distributed model. So that wasn't the only problem with it. There were a lot of other problems with it, but I think that was a big one. If they were to have invested as much in LightSwitch as they did in Access, I think it would have gone further. But and then we would have run into the fact that this is just within one business unit, and it can't really scale beyond that. But yeah, I think a system that's at its core distributed, but gives you this incremental refinement of your application. I think that kind of a system could break beyond the business unit and the organization, and that could be the runtime that supports the decision substrate.
Did you talk about that, Michael? One of the things I already a few times I wanted to start playing with that in historical modeling, but I don't want to defocus too much. I'm a member of a few organizations, non-profit organizations, as a volunteer. Most of these things are in first ed, all these type of things. But in every organization, the first thing they have to do is to collect member data.
Yeah.
Yeah. Relational. Okay. That person called me and he wants to participate in our reunions, or he wants to follow a training. And the problem in all these organizations is the same. They don't have a software for it. And certainly not the distributed software, no server, nothing. And it's always Excel.
Yeah.
And then there is a secretary who enters things in Excel, and then somebody else needs a list, and then they make a copy and they add something, and the result is always the same. 5 different lists. There is nothing up to date. I think historical modeling might be a very interesting way to solve this problem, because it allows you to store whatever type of data structure, because every organization is slightly different.
Yes.
So it's easy to adapt the structure. Plus, it allows you to keep history. Who has been changing what? Because in volunteer organizations, the roles are not really defined like in a professional organization.
Right.
And yeah, there is that one who is too happy and he goes and adjusts something, and the other one adjusts something, and in the end you have no idea what is my real data, who adjusted it, why.
Yeah.
And perhaps a tool like historical modeling might help a lot of these organizations.
Yeah, I think so.
Now, the problem, if you target towards volunteer organizations, the price point has to be uh, a little bit
Yes.
on the low side. Otherwise, nobody's going to use it.
Yes, that is true.
And that's the negative part of that story. But that might be a first step towards users.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that as the first step, because not only is the price point low, but the expectations can be managed and kept low, because hey, you're not paying for this, or you're paying very little for this, and so I can give you an experience that's a little bit more uniform. Okay, maybe I can't give you your specific need right here, but if everybody needs it, then I can build it, kind of thing, and then that's the sort of thing that would have broad reach. It would be easier to kind of get into that market because you're not convincing somebody that probably already has a solution to their problem to go ahead and give you money to have a different solution. You know that you're targeting somebody that an unmet need in the market, and you're saying, I'm just here to help, and I've got this offering. Let's give it a try. Let's learn together. So because I think that's a great use of it.
In Belgium, we don't have that many of these non-profit organizations, but in France, every small village has at least 10 of them, and that goes from a small club who's the ladies who are how do they call that, with wire and needles, repairing clothes, men who are playing football, a club for people going for walks every weekend. So they have a lot of these. They call it an association. But so it's a non-profit organization with a legal background or with a legal foundation.
Yeah.
So every time you have a president, you have a secretary, you have a treasurer, and they have certain obligations. They must have a member list. But so they are small. They don't have software in general, except for the bigger ones. They might have software.
Yeah.
But I assume that at your place it must be the same. A lot of organizations that could use such a thing.
Yeah, that is true.
And the problem domain, you can really limit the problem domain towards relations, members, non-members, and what has to be done with these relations. So
so I know that so I used to volunteer for a thing that we called a give camp. So we had the Dallas give camp, but there were give camps in many different cities, and the idea is that they get a few nonprofits to come participate, and they assign a project manager to the nonprofits, and then over a weekend we have a team of developers who work on some software project for the nonprofit. It usually just ends up configuring WordPress. That's what it Usually happens. But yeah, a lot of them do need member management and donation management. Um, the one that I volunteered for several years in a row was the Sea Turtle Conservancy, and so that one was uh, was uh, pretty different from the others in that it wasn't just setting up the site, but this was also setting up tracking systems for sea turtles. Part of their mission
Okay.
was to put radio trackers on turtles and then study how they migrate.
Well, yeah, where they go,
Uh
uh, how many children they have, baby turtles.
huh. Yeah. So
Okay.
that was yeah, that was a fun series of we got to kind of see how that system grew year over year. But yeah, a lot of them um, are yeah, CRM type of functions, and I'm
Yeah.
surprised that I haven't seen too many of them adopting like an open source CRM. Um, but yeah, Sugar CRM, I don't know if it's still being maintained, but that was something that was yeah, a little bit of a chore to get set up. But once you did, it's like this free tool that you could use to manage your folks, and it could be adapted um, for membership. But yeah, you would still have to find your own hosting and all that kind of stuff. So yeah,
And I think
the barrier's a little
that's
bit high.
the problem in volunteer organizations is that the turnover of people is rather high.
Yeah.
Um, they start a website and then they change the volunteer who occupies, who takes care of the website goes, and then they don't have the password anymore.
Yeah.
Things like that, and they start another one with the next URL.
Uh-huh.
So I think it has to be something which is simple with a very low learning curve,
Uh-huh.
which is the lowest level should be quite low cost,
Yeah.
and limited in functionality.
Uh-huh.
Because the moment that you start tracking the sea turtles, that might be an add-on, but that might be an add-on which has the market price.
Yeah.
But that's so specialized. That's only for the Association of the Sea Turtles.
Right. Yes.
Um, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think
But the sea,
that's part of the reason that it basically became a WordPress install uh,
Mhm.
uh, event. Is that WordPress is something easy to get started with, and if you remember to yeah, give somebody else an account before you leave, then it is the sort of thing that another person could pick up and make changes to the website. Um, but then yeah, you could grow it by installing new plugins um, that do additional functions.
but I think if it, first of all, it has to be hosted,
Mm-hmm.
so that people don't have to install anything. If they can just go to a browser and enter the data there,
Mm-hmm.
so there should be a pre-made model, a kind of default model, which they can enlarge in historical modeling
Yeah.
if they want to go deeper, but they need to have a template where they can start from.
Yeah. Yeah.
So perhaps a few templates with different functionality,
Mm-hmm.
and then they should set up a few names, accounts. So the president can access it, the treasurer, the secretary. For example, yeah, how to make it so that they don't need too much support.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that person left.
Yeah.
Perhaps that always two people can create new accounts,
Mm-hmm.
and that two people are needed. No, that's not going to work, because if you can create a second account, then you have two people who can delete an existing account.
Yeah.
Yeah, to avoid that somebody who's angry is going to delete the account of the other one. But that the kind of distributed power within the association.
Mm-hmm.
Because imagine the president of the association has a fight and he goes away, and then in emergency a new president is elected. And then they say, "Oh, we don't have the password." So then they call Michael. Can you can you send me the the official papers that he's the new president? Yeah, that's not gonna make it if 10,000 associations are using that software.
Yeah, but if the cost is without driving the cost too high, if yeah, so yeah, basically wouldn't be call Michael. It would be call Michael's team. Yeah, I could I could come up with the right pricing structure to support a team. Yeah.
In the morning, call Jan. In the afternoon, call Michael. We still need somebody on another continent for the night.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, in Asia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very nice. Well, we still have to build the
runtime before.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I did make a little bit of progress on the Jinaga.JS runtime, on updating the database. So I can share real quick the work that I was able to do here. Okay.
Such a system could be a first way of having an environment that allows easy modification and easy modeling.
Mm-hmm.
And that gets users of the system. That's also important.
Yeah. Yeah. People shouldn't see this. That would drive people away. They shouldn't even see this.
Yeah.
But but I think yeah, the factual modeling language, that is designed for a mathematician to work with. So that's probably not what people want to see either. But the kind of graph where you see the model and then you can draw a path from one object to the next within the model. That, I think, makes a lot of sense. And then it it knows that it needs to label the valleys, and then you could put conditions in there. Say, okay, from here, let's draw another path, and this one adds to or removes from, and that we can say that instead of exists and not exists, so that it doesn't sound it doesn't sound too mathy, but yeah. So you say, all right, I want to show all of the projects that a user is assigned to, and so you've got a graph that's got a user, and you have that one because you dragged in this authentication component. So user, okay, that comes from my Active Directory over there, and then assignment to project, and then under project you've got items, and under assignment you've got unassigned. And so you just say, all right, I want to start here, and draw this line, and then I want to remove from that, draw from assignment down to unassigned. All right, so I've drawn those two paths, and now I've got the query for users assigned to project where not exists unassigned. So the where not exists is somewhere up here. Yeah, like that kind of thing right there. Then it just kind of generates that query, and it shows them the results. and that's kind of the power of being able to flip to those other two panes and say, all right, let's go ahead and enter some data. Let's actually take my membership data, put it in over here, and then, okay, this person's no longer on this project. And I can see the effect of changing the data on the query. I can see the effect of changing the query on the results.
Mm. And then you're very close to access, where you can enter data in a grid, or in the next step, people can just add a form on top of it, a data entry form, and eventually even a report.
Yes.
So in fact, you're building access then, but in a distributed way.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And then that report, just like you can in SharePoint or in Power BI or any of these other tools. You just say, run that report every week and email it to me here. But yeah, that would just be on the cloud.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we talked a bit about generating this stuff.
Yeah. The joins.
Yep. What we did not yet talk about was the existential stuff. So in here, I've started at the root, and then I'm looking to my successors along the parent role, and the type of the successor is child. And then I'm saying where not exists a successor along the conditional role, where the type is condition. And this one has an additional not exist. So we only want these children where this doesn't exist and this other doesn't exist. So it's going to start at F1. So we've got our where clause for F. Where is the? Oh, yeah, there it is. There's the where clause for starting at F1. And then join along the edge E1, and that's for this role condition. So you can see role ID is 3, so that is parameter number 3, the child.parent. So that's that thing. And then we label that, so grab that fact, that's F2. And so, yeah, this where clause gets it started, but then we've got additional where clauses. So the conditions don't make it into the initial joins. They just add conditions to the where clause. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then they become complicated, huh?
Yeah. They actually this query is a little bit simpler than if this were just at the top level. So if we had that at the top level, then it would look more like this, where we would have our starting fact, an edge, and our ending fact. But here we are only testing for existence, so we don't actually need to label and select the ending fact. So there is no join back to the fact table. So we're just looking for an existence on the edge table.
Yeah.
So if there exists an edge from something, we don't care what, using the role condition.condition. So there's the role ID right there. Then it says, okay, that exists. So I only want where not exists. And I can put as many of these as I need to.
Yeah, it's good that Jinaga will do that for us.
Yeah. Yep. So we've got the not exists and the exists version of it. So so the E versus the N. And yeah, so that much was actually working last week. We just ran out of time before we could talk about it. So so yeah, as you get into the SQL generator, that's something to look out for. And the way that that I'm doing that here inside of the query builder is I've got this should emit facts. So so I set that to true when I start building a query, but then as soon as I get to yeah, so here is the match step. So I'm matching something. For example, I've just matched a type, and then the next step within that type is a oh, I don't have that one. I need to write another test. Yeah. Let's go with the successor type. That's the one that yeah, because I've gone down to a valley and I've done more. So I should be able to join to a predecessor and then put a condition there, and that'll trigger that exception. But right here, if the next step is an existential condition, then it's going to build the nested SQL and put together the query parts there. Building the nested SQL tells it that that should emit facts is false. So I kind of flip into a different mode where I'm no longer emitting the excuse me, the facts for the select statement and the fact joins. So basically, pop that to the stack, or push that to the stack. Pop it back out when we're done here. So while you're inside of that existential condition, you're still going through the state machine, but you're emitting less. And you start the state machine for the child query at predecessor type, just like you started the initial one. And then when you're done, excuse me, the oh yeah, the state is just something you are passing through these functions. The state is not something that's stored within the object. So yeah, we don't need to do the push pop thing on the state.
Yeah, but then below you say should emit facts. Is parent should emit facts? The moment that pop the stack and return to the nested query.
Right. Yeah. Yes. Yep. So you take those query parts that you started with, push those onto the stack, and then if that was at the top level, then should emit facts is true. If you are doing a nested existential, like you would when you're doing the restore pattern. So yeah, where not exists to delete, where not exists to restore. That's a nested existential. So the parent should emit facts in that case will be false. But you just push that onto the stack here, start to reduce over match step, and then you get your state. And during that process, it has collected edge nodes, and it collected those inside of this query parts object. And then now you can return that nested query and pop the parent query back off the stack and continue from there.
Okay.
Yep, so should emit facts. That basically comes into play right here when along your state machine you say, I just detected a valley, I'm going to emit a fact. Well, only do that if that's true. So only do that at the top level.
Yeah.
And then how it's used is just controlled by the outermost part of the algorithm. It's like, okay, now that I've collected those query parts, I use the top level query parts here in order to select the hashes, and the inner query parts, I add those to these exists and not exists clauses. And just do select one instead of selecting all the hashes.
Mm-hmm.
Until you end up with all that stuff.
The use of tests, I think, is very useful. At least it should be for me if I'm going to implement that before it works.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. I could not have done this without tests. And the most important test, so yeah, this is a set of unit tests that say I can turn this into a bunch of SQL with some parameters. And and then I'm just assuming at this point that if I were to give that SQL to Postgres and then this parameter array, then it would do the right thing. But at this point, that's an assumption. Down here, I've got npm run integration, and that tests that assumption. So this runs. Yeah.
You're gonna send the SQL to the database and see what it gets out.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So what this does, so that has just run a suite of now 9 tests, and those tests are right here inside of this integration test folder. So this is connecting to Postgres at some address called dev, whatever machine that is, with the dev password and accessing a database called db. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, the machine is db, the user is dev, and the password is dev pw. And then accessing the integration test database. Over here in the Postgres folder, we've got a Docker file that runs these 3 things. So here is the create a user, run the setup SQL. So this actually creates the database tables, and this is the same setup SQL that is going to be published for other people to use and built into a Docker container. And then we do some grants. So run after we build that Docker file. Run says I need to build the Jinaga Postgres fact key store Docker file. Also need to build this other Docker file that has Jinaga test in it, and copy the index and index.js map from the distribution folder. So after you have built Jinaga, copy the output into that Docker file. Add the tests, and then that Docker file will run the tests. and then do a compose up. So this is where we say, all right, set those environment variables. So that's where the dev and dev pw come from. Here's the database integration test. The Postgres password, never used, doesn't matter. But that right there is the name of the machine that's running inside of this little Docker Compose virtual network. So now the code inside of the Jinaga test container can access DB just like that. So it thinks there's a machine called DB. So yeah, that that creates the database and the test containers or images, and then calls Docker Compose up to create the containers with those two things. Then it one of those containers starts running tests, connects to the other container, and then here it's doing the grants, so it's running through these that grant sh script, and then finally says, it's up, I'll run the tests, everything passes, and then that finishes. And so the way that I've done the Docker Compose up here, whenever you see an exit code from Jinaga test, then use that as the exit code from Compose up, and shut everything down.
That's the before all in the tests. That was run only once, and then all the tests are executed, or it is run before every test?
That is run once before all the tests. So before each would be the other one.
Okay, yeah.
Yep. So yeah, that creates just one Jinaga server instance.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, actually, before each might be a better test, because let's actually go ahead and change that right now.
And he's going to make a lot of containers.
Yeah, so that should it should still be the same two containers, but this is creating a new instance of the Jinaga server and then shutting it down. So this close function that comes back from Jinaga server create, that's something I added recently in order to be able to shut down all your connections on that Jinaga server, so it can close that one down.
Yeah.
So with this being before all, the tests actually are cheating a little bit, because Jinaga server does some caching, and so it could be serving up these things from the cache. Because I'm doing a random route, I'm kind of busting the cache and saying, all right, you can cache that stuff, but here's some new facts. But still, things like the fact types and the roles, those are cached as well. So yeah, this is a better test there. So we save that, and let's run the integration test again. And so yeah, the first thing that that npm script does is it builds Jinaga so that it's got the distribution, it's got the new stuff to put into these Docker containers. And then, hey, something just happened here. We had an uncaught exception. Yeah. This might be a transient error. Let's just do it one more time to see. But I'm guessing it's going to break the second time too. At least I hope it will. Because if it works the second time, then I have some more debugging to do. All right, good. It breaks the second time. Yeah.
And you didn't base one test on another.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Each test creates a brand new random route, and then
Yeah.
runs its own queries. So it's these are testing these you can insert facts. Here we've got some queries, and making sure that you can find the successor. If you haven't declared, you haven't inserted anything with that particular type, it's going to return an empty result rather than saying, hey, I don't know what that type ID is. So all that fun stuff. And so, yeah, in order to help me out here, I've got, first of all, this little script that will just take that that image that we built and start a brand new container of that particular image so that I can start testing against it. And then here, rather than run this inside of a container, I can run this directly from my machine and then use test verbose. And that will output all of the logs from the code that I'm running, so that I can see exactly what's happening here. Excellent. All right, I'll push that one up there so I can start working on that problem.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice.
It's surprising that it failed.
I've seen quite a lot of failures, so I'm not too surprised. This is just an exercise of failing over and over again until I succeed.
No, but it's rather complicated code as well.
Yeah.
So it's logical that it needs some iterations.
Yes, indeed. Yep, so there we go. That is what we're doing with testing.
Okay, you are getting there almost, and I still have to start. Yeah. No, I should be able to make some time this week. Then I hope to solve that SQLite problem, and so that I can get started on the real Jinaga work.
Very nice.
Let's see where we get. Good. Let me see the agenda, because there was when was it? No, it's not next week. 24th, no. No, it's in. Was it in March? No, it's the 21st of February. There I will not be available, but okay. That's in a month's time.
Alrighty.
Next week you will be there?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, and then I hope I have some solutions to show you. Michael, thank you very much. By the way, the React developers, how much time you take to get somebody up to speed?
Yeah, we've been working on this for a week now, and I've been able to dedicate a couple of hours each day to workshops with them, and then checking in periodically throughout the day. So probably about 3 or 4 hours a day for a week, and yeah. So with some of them, I'm getting they're really getting it. Others are struggling a little bit more. So it's different for each person. Plus, we've gotten them all Udemy subscriptions, and they're all watching the same Udemy course.
Okay.
So that's helping them to learn at their own pace as well, without having to rely on me to run a workshop every day. Well, I do run a workshop every day, but
Send them to the competitors for, for courses.
yeah, yeah.
I would say they go to global side, but you
Mm-hmm.
send them to Udemy.
Yeah, yeah. There are reasons for that,
Mm,
but no, it's turning out to be a really good tool for them. So um,
mm. So they are getting up to speed quite fast.
yeah, yeah. So probably by the end of this week, I'll be at a point where I can feel comfortable. I'll run each of them through kind of a mock interview,
Mm,
and make sure that um, that they not only you can do the work, but also can talk about the work that they're doing. So that, I mean, that's what consulting is all about. So um, and then at that point, sort of have them say yes, go forth and go sit with our clients who need this work.
You have a couple of really strong people there.
Yep, yep, I think
Yeah,
so.
good, Michael. Thank you very much. See you next week.
Yes, indeed. See you then.
Okay. Bye
Bye.
bye.